Hello everyone. This demonstration is to show how to create something to be cut on the laser, and that something is a mustache. So let's get started. First thing is we're going to open Illustrator. Any Illustrator, we're doing Adobe Illustrator 2020. First thing is to create a new document. The key here for making this work on the laser is to create something that's got RGB color. That would include mobile, web, and film and video. I'm going to go with web, and I'm going to go ahead and change this to inches. The maximum size in our laser is 32 inches wide by 18 inches tall. Obviously, this is way overkill because your mustache is not going to be that big. But we'll start out that big and we can always crop it later. Okay, it's always a good practice to begin with a template. So this is how your Illustrator probably will look when you begin. Might even have it reset. We're looking to go to a layer and we're going to place a photo of a famous mustache in a template layer. So we're going to jump over here to Google, and you can type in something like famous mustaches. And of course we've got quite a few to choose from. The 40 best mustaches of all time. Let's try that. All right, so we've got looks like Clark Gable and the guy from Parks and Rec. Forget who that is. Let's go ahead and take a look. One of my favorites, Salvador Dali. He was a surrealist painter. Alex Trebek and Charlie Chaplin. You're looking for kind of a straight-on image. That'll make your life a lot easier. This would be very difficult because it's a 3/4 view. David Harbour here from Stranger Things. Frida, hey, we've got Frida Kahlo, another artist. She was pretty famous for her mustache, and she's got some pretty fancy eyebrows going on there. There's Burt Reynolds, Teddy Roosevelt, Tom Selleck, pretty famous back in the 70s and 80s. His would be probably pretty good. We might come back to him. So let's go with Tom Selleck. I'm going to click on Tom's picture there, right click, and copy this image. Now back in Illustrator, we can just go ahead and paste it. And now that it's pasted on our layer here, we're going to double click to convert this layer to a template. So you can rename it if you like. Sometimes I'll name it template just so I don't get confused on it. But the template layer, of course, will lock it, prevent it from printing, and dim it. So those are the main functions that it will do. Now we can't work on it, so we actually need to create a new layer. So down here under Create New Layer, we can call this the Mustache layer. And now we can do our work in the Mustache layer. So the color is very, very specific. We don't want any fill. We're going to say none on the fill. And on the stroke, we want this to be 100%, or in this case, 255 levels of red, 0 green, and 0 blue. Okay, so that's a full red. There are actually 256 levels of each. So we've got 0 would be one level, and then the 255 for a total of 256. If you get a chance, multiply 256 by 256 by 256. And I think that is, I think it's 16.2 million color combinations that you could make with just 3 colors. That's pretty neat. So we've got our 100% bright red, 255 level. We need one more thing to make this vector cut for us. and that is we need a very specific line weight. So we'll get that here in a second. So using the pen tool, and first let's go ahead and zoom up so we can really see what we're doing. We're going to use the pen tool here, and starting in the middle, I'm going to click and drag, and click and drag, and I'm going to basically just outline this mustache here. So click and drag, come down to the kind of the pointed area, hold the Option so that I can keep that a sharp point. And we're going to come back to here, click and drag, and then back to here-ish. Okay, we're going to call that good. I'm going to hit Escape to get out of the pen tool, and we're going to use the direct selection tool. Just makes a few little edits and fix-ups just to make sure that we're happy with how this turned out. Maybe move that out just a little bit. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, that's half the work. Now getting back to the line weight. The line weight is very, very specific. Make sure that it's selected. And over here under Stroke, under Properties, we need this to be 0.001. This is extremely important. If it's not 0.001, it will not vector cut. It will etch, and that won't do you any good. So we're going to hit Enter, and it gives you a very fine line here. But we're not concerned about how fine the line is. We're just mostly concerned with the very specific 255 color and 0.001 line weight. Now that we have half the mustache done, we can go ahead and just copy and flip it over. There are actually multiple ways of doing that. First of all, we're going to use the Reflect tool. So Reflect is O, and it hangs out here with the Rotate tool. So you want the Reflect tool. And we're going to pick somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle, we're going to click down as our pivot point. And then we're going to grab this line and drag it around to the other side, holding the Option. Now the Option is very important. You can see it creates a second little double arrow there. That helps you know that you're actually making a copy. So holding down the Option key, and then if you want it 100% perpendicular, horizontally across, you're going to hold down the Shift. So the Shift makes it constrained to 90 degrees, and that's probably what you want. Let go of the mouse first, and there you've made a copy. Now the other way to do that is to just go ahead and hold down the Option key right up front. So I'm going to click off from that, make sure it's selected, and then the Reflect tool. In this case, I'm holding down the Option key first. You can see that little tail comes out. It's little ellipses, and that brings up a dialog box so that you can choose what axis you're using, the angle. You can preview it to see that it's actually doing what you expect it to do, and then we're going to hit Copy. If you don't want to copy, you just hit OK. But in this case, we want a copy of it. So now we have two of them, and that's just what we were going for. Now, feel free to change it if you like, but for the most part, mustaches I think are fairly symmetrical, meaning they kind of mirror each other on either side. Now, we've got one more little detail that we need to attend to before we can save this file, and that is we need these mustaches connected. So let's zoom up, and you can see that we have two separate mustaches. There's one here, two separate sides. Again, there's a variety of ways to connect them. Probably one of the simplest ways is just take the pen tool, glide over top of the point that you want to add to, and you'll notice that the little asterisk at the bottom right changes to a slash. This tells you that you're connecting to this line. You're adding to that line. So we're going to click on that, and then we're going to go over to the other dot, the other path, and you'll notice that it changes to a completed circle. So you're going to click on that, And now you have just connected those two together. Now they're not connected up here. And I can show you that by clicking on one and moving it away. And here's the other one. We'll undo that. I'm going to click and drag to encircle both those endpoints. And you'll notice those are both bright red and those are open. That means I have those two endpoints selected. And again, I can move those around separately. Or actually, those are moving together separate from the rest. Now, with those two selected, we're going to go to Object, Path, and we're going to join them. So this is a pretty handy thing to do. In some cases, if these aren't touching, for instance, maybe one's over here and one's over here, again, you want to select both. So I'm going to click and drag through both, making sure both those points are selected. In this case, I'm going to go to Object, Path, and this time I'm going to do Average. So I'm going to have them meet both in the horizontal and vertical area, and you'll see those go together just like we had before. Okay, and let's click on it and make sure. Okay, so we need to, now that we've averaged them together, we're going to need to join them. Command J, or if you go to Object, Path, Join. Okay, so that's how we're going to get those connected. So now when I click on the one side of the mustache, now I have the whole mustache. Okay, we're probably all done with this layer here. We can delete that. We don't need it anymore. And then the last thing that we need to do is we need to figure out the size that we've got. So depending on the picture that you use, the size could be pretty deceiving. So we're going to go to View, and we're going to turn on our rulers. That's Command R. So here's our rulers. Another way to do that is to go to Properties. And with your mustache selected, it will automatically show up in the Properties. This is where it's on the artboard. Over here is the actual size. So in this case, the mustache is 3.5 inches wide and not quite an inch tall. So 3.5 to about almost an inch tall. And I'd say that's probably pretty good. You might actually want to grab a ruler and a friend and just kind of measure under their nose and decide how big you want that. Assuming this is the size we want, we can zoom out and edit our artboard. We'll just crunch this down, making sure to not cut off any of our mustache. And this just makes it a little bit easier to handle, a little smaller file. And the laser doesn't really care where it is on the artboard. You'll adjust that when you go to actually laser it. Okay, so that's it. We are done. We just need to go ahead and save it. So we'll do a Save As. And this does need to be an AI file. And I'm going to name this Doug's Mustache. Okay, and make sure you put your name on here. Probably don't need the little asterisk or the little apostrophe there. It might cause problems with the file when you go to reopen it. So save this to the desktop. This is very, very important under the circumstances that we have with our server in order to have the permissions read correctly. So save it to the desktop. And that's it. We've done it.